Right? Papa's back in town?
I suppose. I don't know.
I thought it was. All right. Well, that's what we're going with. Here we go. Testing, testing. Today on Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn Papa's back in town.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Quality Time with Family Ties. I am one of your hosts, Corey Pepper, and I am here, as always, to quote Scott Jones, with Paul Packler. Paul, you're doing the running man?
I am. I'm running because I am so happy to be going through this marathon of 2 episodes that we're doing right now. You guys don't understand this, but we're doing 2 in a row.
Yeah, 2 in a row, and you'll get them over 2 weeks. Well, fed to you slowly.
Yeah. You'll see us slowly devolve from this week until next.
But this is season 4, episode 14, Where's Papa? Now, do you remember the movie Where's Papa?
No, what is that?
Where's Papa was a movie that starred George Segal and Ruth Gordon right after she did Harold and Maude.
Okay.
She had that really successful period of time where she won the Oscar for Rosemary's Baby, did Harold and Maude with Bud Cort, and then did Where's Papa? And if I remember correctly, Where's Papa was either written or directed by Carl Reiner, had something to do with it. It was one of the old Borscht Belty comedies. And their whole advertising campaign for Where's Papa was about Ruth Gordon constantly, she was a Jewish mother, and she was constantly pinching her adult son George Segal's ass, saying, "What a tush, what a tush."
And that's her son? She was pinching his ass?
Yes.
Ruth Gordon had a weird career, you guys. From Rosemary's Baby, where she's like all up in Rosemary's vagina, almost literally. And then Bud Cort, she's sleeping with a 17-year-old when she's like 60.
And here she's pinching her son's ass.
Whew, the 70s were a crazy time. Corey, what was that? There was like a flash, like a magnesium flash. What was that?
Wasn't it? Amazing, isn't it? So we're stuck in the kitchen at the Keaton household here on this episode where we meet Ellen's father. That's who Papa is in this episode. It's Ellen's father. Now, do you have the same basic fundamental problem with the plot that I have?
I mean, I think we should wait till we get to that point, but I think I'm in total agreement about that.
It happens to me. I note it at the very end of this very first scene, which
exactly,
where Ellen says something quite clear, and Alex simply doesn't acquiesce to her wishes.
Yep. It's really weird. It's shocking because she's so definitive about her not wanting to see her father.
That's why, and I wrote down the word firm. She's very firm. It's not ambiguous. It's not wishy-washy. It's not maybe. It's very firm. And once again, I question Alex's capability of being sympathetic or empathetic to other people. To having
both. Yeah.
I'll get more into that as we get through this. But we open with Mallory showing Andrew a mail order catalog, and she's sort of trying to teach him how to master mail ordering this early, like she did.
I'm sure for millennial Andrew, who now would be like 30 years old, that was such a great thing to learn. What a great talent to cultivate.
Yep. And right after that, Alex and Ellen come on in.
Let me say this, Corey, is that Mallory is wearing a very gorgeous light blue sweater that matches with her earrings. And then Ellen comes in with Alex, like you said. She's wearing her famously blue sweater.
Right, that she seems to wear in every episode for some reason.
Because her eyes pop.
That's it. They must have gotten like a focus group that said, "Hey, her eyes pop, keep her in blue." Alex announces when they get in that he is the newly elected chair of the Parent-Student Weekend Committee.
What?
Yeah, that's what he says. He's the newly elected chairman of the Parent-Student Weekend Committee.
why do they even have that? They don't have an administration to do these things, like some
I
sort
know.
of.
Really, it's a student event. It sounds crazy that he would have to run it, but his name was put. He's so full of himself that he has this job, and then it turns out that his name was pulled out of a hat. Ellen sort of has the joke line there that his name was pulled out of a hat, which led me to write down the word narcissist. Alex P. Keaton is a narcissist, and here in October of 2016, we have been so inundated nationally with such a narcissist for the last 15, 16 months that I'm so sensitive to other narcissists. I really am. I'm sensitive. I call other people on it too, not just Alex P. Keaton. But we live in this Trumpavian world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to listen at least for another week and a half to this bullshit that comes out of his mouth. And the word winning comes out of his mouth, and it comes out of Alex P. Keaton's mouth a lot too, where it's ultimately that's the goal. You got to win everything. If you don't win, you're a loser. And Alex P. Keaton doesn't want to be a loser. And he always elevates himself into a better position than he actually has by saying, oh, I was selected out of all of these 50 applicants. Yeah, his name was picked out of a hat.
Yes, and he undercuts other people.
He does.
He doesn't listen to other people, like we said about Ellen and other characters.
He lacks empathy.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Corey. It's not just that it's a character flaw that we're seeing from Alex. It's because of the shoddy writing. We almost have to look to the DSM to be like, is Alex P. Keaton actually suffering from some sort of narcissist personality disorder?
And that's now. Have I discussed? I don't know if I've discussed on the show that I worked for a gentleman who had narcissistic personality disorder. I worked for 10 years, and I have lived to speak about it. I hope to write about it. It's one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. But watching it all over again in Donald Trump is fucking amazing. There are facial things that Alec Baldwin has noticed in his SNL impersonation of Trump that are tells of people with narcissistic personality disorder. The thing with the bottom lip, the making a face when someone else is speaking, he has zero impulse control. No impulse control is one of the things that goes with narcissistic personality syndrome. So even though his handlers are telling him, don't react, don't react, don't react, he can't help but react. Now, obviously, I don't believe that Michael J. Fox has narcissistic personality syndrome.
No, he truly does not. He seems like one of the nicest humans ever.
Absolutely. And a man who's totally filled with both empathy and sympathy, clearly by his charitable foundation.
Right.
However, I don't think I'm so charitable with Alex P. Keaton. And this episode, I wrote down every instance in this episode, Paul, where I thought he was exhibiting signs of narcissistic personality syndrome.
Yeah, and last week's episode that we just talked about with Tina Yothers and everything, and her character, even though we didn't see it happen, what they were establishing of the way that their dynamic working together it was in the same vein. It was in the same dynamic of this problem that Alex has as a person of just not empathizing or sympathizing with anyone around him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The big problem in this parent-student weekend, Alex wants to invite every student's parent, and that includes Ellen's father, and she says, don't invite him, he wouldn't come. And Alex seems hurt. Now, that's one of the reasons I thought that's narcissistic. Your girlfriend says to you, please don't invite him, he won't come. I don't think you should. It has nothing to do with you. He's not coming because he doesn't want to meet you, Alex. He's not coming because either he's not coming because he doesn't want to see her, or she doesn't want to invite him because she doesn't want to see him. But those are the only two possibilities, and neither one means you should invite the father.
But somehow, Alex P. Keaton has found the third option, which is, this is an affront to me.
Yes. Yeah, this somehow or another, this is an insult to me.
Yeah.
And he says he won't call. And she says, I don't want you to. Please don't call. And she said, please, Alex, don't invite my father. And that's really how the scene ends, with her being completely firm and us being 100% sure that Alex is indeed going to call her father.
Yeah, exactly. And also, a little interesting point is that we learned that Ellen's mom had died.
Right. We didn't know that before, that it's a single dad. And it truly, and I've known friends who have had bad relationships with parents, and there's clearly a reticence to talk about parents who they don't believe deserve to have any time spent talking about them.
Sure.
You know, so I respect that if I meet somebody who's like, what's your relationship with your father? Not really one to speak of. Fine. I don't grill them on it and say, hey, let's repair that right now.
Well, if it would be fun for everyone else to see that person squirm, I think you might do that. Or at least I know I would.
Well, you might. But if it involved a woman and the possibility of sweet, sweet loving ever again, I know better.
I would shut my trap.
Absolutely. But instead, we cut to the kitchen, and we have a moment which I wanted to take a moment with you. Right at the beginning of the scene, we get the rolling chair in action again.
That made me happy. I was like, oh, this episode's off to a rolling start.
And I've now made a list, as the scene was boring the shit out of me. I made a list of the things that we need to graph and chart on this show.
Okay.
Obviously, orange juice, the rolling chair, bathrobes, appearances by both Bobby Costanzo and David Wall.
And Gus.
And Gus. I don't have Gus down. Every time the cereal in the canister appears.
You know what, Corey? After you went on that tirade about the thing, my mom messaged me or texted me and was like, listen, we had cereal in canisters. And I didn't even know. And I had to wait until now to bring it up. I was so afraid of what you would say.
What I say is I apologize to Diane. I absolutely apologize to Diane Packler. I want you to take my sincerest apologies. I didn't mean to make a judgment. I'm not usually a very judgy person, as you can tell.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
I'm not judgy at all. And I should definitely lighten up about somebody who has a lovely home, I'm sure, and transfers their Captain Crunch from the box.
Oh, she wouldn't let us eat Captain Crunch. Oh, she's a terrible person.
Cornflakes, raisin bread.
We ate a lot of Cheerios. I think a Cinnamon Toast Crunch sometimes. That was exciting.
That was exciting. There's sugar in that.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And then Cocoa Puffs.
I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Oh no. Oh boy. I saw that magnesium flash.
So we get a rolling chair, and Alex, what do I have down here? Shows to his parents. What is he showing to his parents?
He's showing the plans, and they're They're setting up stuff for the events.
That's right. He has pictures on a page. And who are the pictures of on the flyer that Jennifer shows? All pictures of him. Narcissist. I wrote down Donald J. Trump. Those are Trump pictures. It's all about him. And then he says, and then I have all these activities planned. I have the parent-student rodeo, the parent-student wet T-shirt contest, parent-student kickboxing. Hilarious.
I mean, wet T-shirt contest, that's pretty Trump if ever there was something Trump. My
Absolutely.
God, he has all these freshmen doing wet T-shirt contests around their parents?
Yeah, he's going to manipulate that.
Yeah.
And Ellen comes in, and does Ellen come in, or does she call on the phone?
No, she comes barreling in, and she is
She is pissed off. She's furious. And that's where I wrote in huge block letters, I have real issues with the character of Alex P. Keaton. In this episode, I guess I do have real issues with him.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that he did what, and then I can't believe that she's furious with him. And then furthermore, and this is certainly no reflection on the lovely and talented Tracy Pollan, I can't believe that the writers let him off the hook, because there's a moment in the second act where she lets him off the hook for this, and I don't see that in real life.
Yeah, it's true. You know, Corey, this is such a long story that I almost hasten not to bring it up. But have you ever had to play a female role in anything?
I have. I've had to play a female role.
Have you ever noticed that in the really bad things like film scripts, or if you're doing a scene in an acting class that's not that great or whatever, and you're playing the female role, that you are compelled as an actress or female actor to have to stand there and smile as the guy, the male character, just blabbers on, and you have to find motivation to stand there and smile and pretend to laugh at the jokes that are written into the script. It's insane. And this is just another example of the sort of like casual misogyny that is just pervasive in the culture. And it's this thing of like, this young woman, freshman in college, would not stand for this bullshit. And the fact that they have written her into this corner just is an example of this character would never suffer this shit with a smile.
Never. There's no way. And I can't believe he doesn't get a dressing down from his mother on this one.
Yeah. Based on everything we know about her, exactly.
Nobody seems to really dress him down. Ellen has a little bit of pushback for a little while, and then eventually lets him off the hook. Right. And that's the episode. And that's where I was like, wow, I had a feeling, how could she hold him responsible? The only way she'll hold him responsible is to break up with him for a period of time, or to say, hey, I don't want to see you. But it's almost like it's totally glossed over. And they really sort of focus instead on the reparation of the relationship between Ellen and her father, which Alex, of course, gets all puffed up about that he instigated. And I helped. Very proud of himself. And you know what? I don't think somebody should be so proud of himself for doing something that he shouldn't have done, that he lucked out, that worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Because 9 out of 10 times, that's a situation that ain't going to work out for the best. It seems disrespectful of women, disrespectful of this character, disrespectful in light of the period that this is in, disrespectful of his mother and the period in which she has lived in. It's just disrespectful. That's why I have real issues with the character of Alex P. Keaton.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing to be said anymore. This is not just some charming misanthropic or some sort of like I don't know, gadabout or something. It's just like, he's so cute that it's okay. This is no longer okay anymore.
And the overriding theme of what we're really talking about is this was an okay episode too.
Yeah. That's what before we started, I said, oh, this is an okay episode.
It's an okay episode. It really is. It's okay because of what's about to happen. Because we're about to meet Ellen's father, who's played by a wonderful character actor who's still alive. I thought he had passed away.
Yeah, he's very old now.
Yeah, he's old. Ronnie Cox. You remember him from what movie was what you said your reference was?
RoboCop. He was Dick Jones.
Is that the sergeant?
No, he was the big bad guy. He was the one that ran the entire corporation.
Oh, that's right. And I remember him from Deliverance as one of the four dudes with Burt Reynolds, John Voight, Ned Beatty, and Ronnie Cox. And he's the banjo player who instigates dueling banjos with the special child in the backwoods.
Yes. And he was also, Corey, he was also the head detective or the sergeant or whatever in the original Beverly Hills Cop.
That is correct. I was going to say that. And then I also remember him from TV. He joined Saint Elsewhere very late in its run for about 3 or 4 years. He's had a few good runs on television as well. Mm-hmm. An actor who I always am pleased to see. I find them something very pleasing about him. He's a good actor, and he's got the gravitas to pull off this jokeless second act.
Yeah. And he always, you know, the other thing about him, he always seems like a good guy who's corrupt, that you're going to find out in the third act is a bad guy. And he's very similar to the guy that plays Mike on Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad. What's that actor's name?
Bob
No. The one that's the bald guy, the old guy.
Oh, Jonathan Banks?
Yes. They were like contemporaries who were like very similar in type.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So Dad is excited to meet, to come and visit with Ellen. And Ellen's dad appears right off the bat to be Alex P. Keaton. It just seems as though all the things that Ellen hates about her father are things that we would say are attributes of Alex P. Keaton. And Alex is completely dazzled by the fact, here's another totally unrealistic thing, that her father is rich. Now, they've been seeing each other for a while. This didn't come up in conversation.
That was very weird. The fact that he was like, because I wouldn't have even thought or made a big deal of it myself, but they have Alex making a big deal where he's like, Ellen, I started dating you, and now I find out you're rich, and that means I'm so smart that I was able to figure it out inherently. And it was just like, that they hung a lampshade on it made it even more like, why did you never talk about this before?
Yes, somebody pointed out in the room that it made no sense that they had never discussed it. So they hung a lampshade on it to try and spin the joke out.
Yeah, but it made it worse.
It made it worse, absolutely. By the way, I have known people who have fallen in love and married rich women. I know a few of them. Mm-hmm. And they all knew pretty well right off the bat that they were involved with rich women.
Sure.
It didn't come as a surprise. I have found that people who are rich don't usually go around telling people that they're rich, but there's definitely signs that they're rich, all kinds of signs nowadays. So you just got to sort of keep your eyes open and go, oh, okay, what'd your parents do for a living? There's always my question.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm dating girls and they're rich, and I go to their apartment and it's not a studio in the Bronx, that's one sign. The second one is they don't have a futon that you have to fold down before you have sex. That's another sign that you're like, oh, you have a real bed. These are all signs that someone might be rich that Alex in college should have noticed.
Wow. A Murphy bed is a sign. When I first met my ex-wife, she was living in a studio apartment on the Upper East Side, maybe 98th, 99th, and between 2nd and 3rd, or between 1st and 2nd.
Okay, so Spanish Harlem.
But yes, it was definitely Spanish Harlem. And she lived in a studio apartment that indeed had a Murphy bed that came down.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those were the old days, huh? The good old days.
Back when you didn't have televisions, so it didn't matter that the bed took up the whole room. It's fine.
It's funny. Yeah, I used the no television line with my decrepit 93-year-old mother just the other day. My mother comments whenever we're out in public and people have their phones, and like we were sitting in a doctor's waiting room, okay, and everybody was on their phones, and for the 100,000th time she commented, all everybody seems to do is be on these things these days. And I finally said, I've got to make this a rational argument, Mom. I said, you are 93 years old. You've lived in a world without airplanes and with airplanes. If you wanted to travel to the East Coast, what would you use to go to the East Coast? I'm not going to the East Coast. Okay, maybe that was a bad example.
She's terrible at hypotheticals.
You've lived in a world without television. You live in a world now where you are completely dependent upon television. When you want to go back to your apartment now, what are you going to put on? Okay, I put on the television. That has nothing to do with it. Has everything to do with the phones. What I'm saying to you is life changes and people adapt to a changing life. And you, for some reason, probably because you're like a minute and a half away from your sure death, maybe that's why you can't adapt to the fact that everybody has smartphones and everybody uses smartphones and we all enjoy smartphones because we don't want to spend our time talking to a cranky 93-year-old battle axe like you.
Oh my God. What did she say?
I don't know. Did she respond?
The best punchline ever. She was on her phone. She took her phone out. She had stopped listening in the middle of her rant.
She was on Perez Hilton.
She's like, oh, look at the cum coming out of her nose.
better than Perez Hilton. Up the stakes from Perez Hilton.
Oh, good gravy.
So Alex is the shallowest human being on the face of the planet. And that's how this scene ends. You know, this episode, every scene ended with a wet fart without a joke. I don't know how, but everyone was like a little, just a little wet fart right at the very end of every scene. No joke, no little, bumper at the end. It was just awful.
That's the thing, like the rule of thumb with sitcoms is you have to end each scene or each act on a joke, right?
And it seems like that's an easy enough task to do. You can always punch something up.
Yeah.
We cut to to the living room where Mallory and Jennifer, in their pathetic excuse of a B plot, have a gift for Andy, and it's a sweater that they got from mail order.
No, they knitted it themselves.
Oh, they knitted it themselves.
Yeah.
Alex is at the door with Dad. Dad is Ronnie Cox. He hates all of her old boyfriends, but he immediately falls in love with Alex P. Keaton because she's never had a boyfriend like Alex P. Keaton before. She's always had losers. In other words, she had arts students before. She's never had like an economics guy, a business guy.
He says these two things. He says, what is he, a poet, a dancer, a communist? And I was like, those all sound great.
Yep.
And then the second thing he says, well, usually she dates bohemian, punk, hippie, parasite types. And I was like, again, that's my friends.
Exactly. That's all I've ever socialized with. But boy, Ellen, and then a little thing happens. Ellen comes into the scene with Alex and her dad, and she was waiting for her dad. And they get into an argument almost immediately about where they were supposed to meet. And that's sort of important because it does happen again later on in it.
It's definitely an example of them just trying to find a way to exemplify that they don't see eye to eye on things. Is that she said, meet me at I'll meet you at the airport. He thought she said, I'll meet you at my dorm room. And once again, Corey, this would have been a great time for cell phones to be invented.
It sure would have been, because those payphones were hard to find sometimes.
Yeah.
And so they start fighting right off the bat. But he loves Alex. And what is it? Why is it always? Oh, yeah. Why on this show is it always art versus science and money? It's always, artists are lesser, science and money are better.
I feel like it's that whole Reagan defunding NEA?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it was just that thing of like, oh, arts are inherently bad because our presidents say they are.
That's right.
All arguments in the 80s were so binary and awful that, I mean, they got so much more nuance today, but,
And that is the end of the act, really. It goes out on another wet fart.
Is that it? Oh, yeah, that's true, because he says, Alex, what do you think of modern art? And he's like, modern art? And he looks at Ellen and he's like, I like it. And then he looks at the dad and he's like, sometimes. And then it's like fade out to commercial.
It's just awful.
Yeah. So we'll be right back. You good, Corey?
Oh, I'm real good.
All right. And we're back. So we have the post-football game. Alex and his parents are returning to the house, and Alex is in dire straits. He's had the shit kicked out of him, which, as you remember, Corey, when they went to London, he played rugby and was pretty good.
And yet, I wrote down, more times than not, Alex is not a good athlete.
No.
They keep on putting him into athletic situations, which baffles me. Probably because we all know that Michael J. Fox was an amateur hockey player. Well, that's all we ever hear about. So, I feel as though maybe there was that impetus that, he was athletic, that Michael J. Fox was athletic. But my point of view is Alex P. Keaton is unlikely to be an athletic kid. He seems asthmatic to me.
Yeah, he's closer to me than Michael J. Fox.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't play sports.
Hold on, I'm listening.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't play sports. I'm not the type of person who was good at sports.
I was listening for the sound of America right now, and I could hear a pin drop. Nobody reacted to that. There wasn't a single person that seemed surprised by that statement.
I thought they were stunned into silence. You're thinking it was more that they didn't care. I thought it was that they were so surprised.
That they were thinking possible NFL draft right after college?
And I said, no, my studies are more important, and that's why I didn't join. I said, no, I'm going to learn about Artaud in acting school.
What did our beloved Jon Stewart once refer to himself as 98 pounds of asthma?
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mom, during the football game, Elise Keaton beat the crap out of her own son on some tackle of I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Corey, did you understand what they were saying?
Yeah, there was a terrible tackle. There was a big hit on Alex. And Alex bitches and moans about the person who hit him. And then Elise goes, I'm really sorry, Alex. I didn't do it on purpose. So he was given a vicious body check by his mother.
And then their little scenelet ends. They all sort of exit. And then Mallory and Jennifer come in, both in the ugliest sweaters I've ever seen. They had like people skiing on them, or like ballerinas playing tennis or something.
Yes.
And then Alex comes in a three-piece suit, I think, and then that's when the dad comes in, and they're talking about, like, the dad talks about how Ellen used to swim and ice skate and play baseball and horseback riding, and he said, he makes a point of saying that Ellen could have gone to the Olympics for horseback riding. Is that real?
Yes, horseback riding is in the Olympics. It's not called horseback riding, it's the equestrian events. But yes, you can go to the Olympics.
Okay. What is it, like jumping and stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
There's two different events. One is like when they jump, and one is called dressage, where the horse is taught to walk in a very stately manner.
Oh yeah, that's that Mitt Romney bullshit. His wife does the dressage.
My dog is kissing my face. You just bit my nose. Out of love.
Oh.
He wants to go out.
What's your dog's name, Corey?
A Shay, like the stadium.
Nice.
Yes. He wants to go out. I know. You've been said, or do you want to go outside? You want to go out in the back? Oh, I'll let you out. Sure.
Okay, yeah, go do your thing. So I'll keep talking. And
right back.
That's fine. So the dad says to Alex that he's excited about the big dance that's coming up later that evening or sometime soon. And he says, I'll save the last dance for you, Alex, which is one of my favorite songs.
Uh-huh.
It's written by Doc Pomus, and it was sung by the Drifters, I believe. Do you know who sang it, Corey?
I think it was the Drifters.
Okay, it's a great, great song. He had, I think, polio as a child, and so he got married, Doc Pomus did, and at his wedding, he was sad that he couldn't dance with his wife, to go up and dance, and so he wrote this song from his own point of view about, go dance with whomever you want, but save the last dance for me, and yeah, and he became actually really good friends with Lou Reed, And when Doc Pomus died of cancer in the 90s, Lou Reed wrote a whole album on the death of Doc Pomus, his friend.
Really?
Yeah, and that album is called Magic and Loss.
Wow.
Yeah.
Last week we were quoting famous authors. This week, Doc Pomus.
Yeah. When you come here, you come for the Alex P. Keaton cuteness, and you stay for the dramaturgy that you get.
And I was going to remark that I believe Doc Pomus was also Logan's dermatologist for a few years, but that's just what my memory is.
Wait, are you thinking of the guy that's on the Subway ads? That guy, that Dr. Zizmus or whatever?
Does he remove tattoos? Is like the Dr. Tatoff?
Yeah. So we fast forward to the dance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this big parent. It's more like a little party in a frat house or something. It's like a very fancy little dinner party, and everyone's standing around, and the Keatons are talking with Mr. What's Ellen's last name? Ellen Reed. Mr. Reed.
And they're all standing around the punch bowl.
Right. And they bring up the fact that when Alex was a little baby or something, he put together the parent-baby weekend cruise.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, that Alex is such a great kid. And then they say, well, Ellen has been a great influence on Alex. Now he can say feminist without laughing. And I was just rolling my eyes as hard as I could.
Yep. I have problems with that myself.
Yeah. And so Mr. Reed laughs at the word feminist, and then Alex laughs at the word feminist, and it is just laughs galore from the audience.
Mm-hmm. It sure is. All of a sudden, we're laughing at feminists. Not what I think is a great idea.
No, how dare they want jobs in 1986?
Women? How dare they?
Yeah.
They're laughing at feminists. Oh, yeah. And then they're fighting again about Ellen comes in and Dad and Ellen fight again over where they were going to meet for the dance.
Right. And she pulls him off to the side, and thankfully all the Keatons go away instead of like Alex ruining this debate. You know, that he comes in and starts making stupid jokes as they're having this real moment. Luckily, that doesn't happen.
Thank God.
And the only thing that I felt is that Tracy Pollan was trying to save this episode, and she almost starts crying, and it was a little bit too much.
Yes, it was she turned it into a drama.
Right.
And that is what it is. You know, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just, it is.
Yeah. And during this part, a guy comes up and takes his and Ellen, the dad's and Ellen's picture, and that will come up later. I was like, that was really stupid. And I said to myself, and I wrote, I wonder if that'll come up later.
Yeah. And Ellen and Dad get into this nasty argument where he claims he deserves respect and that he won't pretend, and she says, I won't pretend that that everything is great, and all you do is ignore and criticize, and nothing was good enough for you, he says to her. Just a really nasty kind of little fight that the two of them have with each other. That I felt that it was too dramatic, and she was on the verge of tears.
Yeah, and there was a thing earlier in the episode, Corey, where she says that she and her father haven't talked really for 5 years, and I was like, since 8th grade, you haven't had a conversation with your dad?
How is that possible when Mom's been dead at some period of time?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. They ask, why do I argue with you? And we found out that she ran away from home at one time.
Which I guess that's fine. Did you ever run away from home? I never did.
I threatened to.
Yeah.
But my mother's awful, so.
Yeah. And you lived in New York City, right? You were in Queens.
Well, no. Most of my life I was on the island. Most of my life it was suburbia.
Okay. I was going to say, I thought maybe you could just like walk down the street or something. But... Yeah.
And it seems that he was an absent father is really what it comes down to, that work was more important to him. Making money was more important to him. Advancing his career was more. Wait a minute.
What?
That sounds just like somebody I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and that's the thing in this episode is they don't really put a bow on it, but someone took like a Psych 101 course and found out that people date people like their parents. You know, it's like
yeah. We always say that you marry someone like your opposite sex parent.
Right. And
Like your dads,
they don't, because they don't bring it up later or anything. It would have been interesting to be like, "Hey, Ellen, why do you want to date Alex when he's so much like your dad?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would have been a more interesting conversation than what we get in the next scene.
Right.
It's just a really dramatic scene with lots of dramatic lines of, I want a new start, and I don't need you now. And Alex knows there's more. Alex has to know there's more to life than money, and it is something. It's too late for some things, and it's very like, ooh, very, very heavy, very dramatic.
Oh no, are you getting palpitations?
Just so upset. I was so sad. I was so upset. But no, couldn't have cared less.
So they're back at home.
Right.
And Alex and Ellen comes in, and Alex is like, "Oh, I fucked everything up." He's saying this to his parents. Ellen comes in, and he's so sorry. And that she says her dad's on the way to the airport, and she's like, "Well, it was bound to happen. You just sort of exacerbated an issue that already existed," which is total bullshit.
And then Alex takes the, "I'm really sorry I did that. I feel really bad." And she goes, "It was going to happen anyway." And that's where I thought, come on, you let him off the hook. You're not going to give him a little bit of a hard time about him instigating this whole thing?
Yeah, not even a little bit. Not even like giving it the most cursory of, yeah, well, you know, I'm not happy that you did it, but I am happy that we got this to this point. Like, even just that little bit of what I said would have been enough.
And then she has the nerve, or the writers have the nerve, to make her turn around and say to Alex, "Your family is special. You'd never know what it was like to be like me."
What? Like, why do we care that the Keatons are such good people? I mean, this is truly where, like, Married with Children and The Simpsons were so revolutionary when they came out. Because it was the first time that you had family sitcoms where the families were not good people. And then I think Roseanne came after those two, maybe. Or I don't know. I forget. Those three series were so different because the main family weren't people that we were supposed to aspire to be like.
Very much like the show American Housewife.
Oh.
That's the conceit of the show, is they are the poorest people living in Westport, Connecticut. And so it is a class thing, that it is. There's all these rich people, and rich and beautiful people, because they've taken the time to have surgery to make themselves beautiful. They have the money and the time. But that's a central conceit to a lot of these shows, where it's like, no, these are real people saying real things to their children. Right. You know, Cosby was integral in that too.
Yeah, oh, I mean, but he was the thing of like an aspirational figure. It was a thing of like, oh, this family. Since the dawn of television, other than like the Honeymooners, everyone was trying to be like the families that they saw on TV. All the Leave It to Beavers and all the Daddy Knows Best and all that stuff.
And that's why the Honeymooners was such the exception to the rule in the 50s, that you had this couple that you didn't know that they loved each other until at the end, when we love each other,
And then Alex says that he ran away at one point, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking to myself, what? Where's this going?
I know, we never had that storyline.
No. And so it happened when he was 6. It was 1972, and his parents voted for McGovern, and he said, "I just couldn't stay." He tied his briefcase to the end of a stick and then tried to walk to Washington, D.C. to live with the Nixons. He got to Skippy's house and stayed there.
That could be another monologue. That's a good monologue, too.
That was a good monologue. That was, that actually putting it together in that way, it's like a nice little cute story. But, Corey, I would say, is this another example of you seeing how Alex is the narcissistic personality disorder, or do you see it as his way of saying, oh, I get it, like, I'm the same way as you?
No, I see him turning it around and making it about him.
Yeah.
And then I wrote down, Alex is absolutely sort of kind of clueless about how to react to human characters, in reading a character, that he couldn't read Ellen's firmness of not wanting to see her father. That's a character flaw that you have. Your girlfriend, you couldn't tell that this was something that was important to her.
Do you think it's a psychological flaw?
It's like he has absolutely no feeling. He can't feel someone's import, that this is important to them, that you can't sense that.
Maybe he's a sociopath.
That's it. Well, yeah.
God, now I want to go back and watch the whole series again to see if he is a sociopath all the way through.
We'll start noting it in the future.
So Mr. Reed comes in, even though we thought he was going on the airplane. He comes in to give Ellen the picture that was taken during their argument at the party.
That's it.
I don't know how in 1986 you got a fully developed picture that quickly.
It wasn't a Polaroid. I looked to see if it was a Polaroid.
Yep, and it wasn't. And so he gives it to her. He's like, here, I just wanted to give you this. And she's like, oh, but I'm smirking in it. And he's like, well, it's sometimes you have to just take what you can get. And he apologizes for how he's been, but he is trying to be better, which we've never seen that in this episode.
Right, never.
And he says, I love you and I don't want to lose you. Let's try again. And she's like, all right, yeah, let's do that. And then he starts walking away and she goes, Daddy, with all kinds of pathos. And then they hug.
Wow. I got nothing.
Yeah. I mean, he leaves and he says, bye, Alex. And then Alex gives him a very tearful hug, which was, I mean, it was cute. You saw it coming, but it was at least something. It was better than ending the episode on the hug with Tracy Pollan and just being completely maudlin about everything.
That's true.
So that's the episode, guys. Corey, guess what just happened?
What's that?
I forgot to pull up the credits.
Well, I was sitting with my mother in the doctor's office earlier this week.
What good articles were you reading on your phone?
Oh
no! I can feel the wheels coming off.
It was just fine. She's just such an unbelievably irritating person. The only person in the whole world she can rat me out to now that she's 93 is her geriatric doctor. So I'll say something to the doctor like, I don't think she's drinking enough water. And she'll say to the doctor, don't listen to a word that he says. He's a liar, and he has been his whole life.
And the doctor goes, what?
And the doctor looks at me and then looks at my mother and he says, Mrs. Pepper, I listen to every word your son says and I believe everything that comes out of his mouth.
Aww.
So he backs me up all the time because he knows that she's, slightly demented at night.
Right. Well, that's nice to have that person on your side. It feels good when you're dealing with someone who's crazy and then someone acknowledges that you're not the crazy one.
That's exactly how I feel. Because my mother did something like, sometimes I walk into her apartment and she'll say to me, how come when I play Channel 5, it's not the programs on Channel 5? I don't understand. What are they having on a different channel today? And I said, Mom, whatever's on Channel 5 is on Channel 5. No one's fucking around with you. No one is taking the programming from Channel 7 and placing it on Channel 5 just to fuck with you. So no, that's not the way it's working. And then I find out afterwards, I said, what time were you watching television? And she tells me it was 3:30 in the morning. And I said, and was it just a commercial that was on? And she said, yes. I said, because I'm going to tell you something, Mom. Only channels 2, 4, 7, CNN, and Fox, those are the only channels that broadcast 24/7. Every other television station, and there's hundreds of them, just show commercials all night long.
Yeah.
Oh. But she thought somebody was fucking with her TV. So,
well, I'll say this, Corey. I think that the lesson that we can draw from your relationship with your mom is that Tracy Pollan or Ellen Reed's relationship with her dad will only get worse in the years to come.
As advancing old age comes upon him, yes.
Right. All right. So rate and review our show on iTunes. For questions and comments, email us at qualitytimewithfamilyties@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at QTWFT for updates. You can follow each of us. I'm at Paul Packler.
I'm at Corpep, and Scott is at Follow Jones. He might be back after not the next episode, but 2 episodes from now. He might be back with us.
Yes, it's very exciting. I think he's finally bored of his new baby. It's like that toy that you get on Christmas. You're like, 2 hours later, you're like, all right, I'm done. I would assume. That's how people respond to babies, right?
You're correct. Yes, you are.
Okay, good. Like us on Facebook. We'd like to thank our host and producer, Barbara Dillon, at Fanbase Press. Fanbase Press is a comic book publisher and an online community supporting other creators and fans through daily reviews, interviews, and podcasts that span the pop culture spectrum. www.fanbasepress.com. We'd like to thank Perry Adams, who beautifully performs Family Ties and our theme song Without Us. Check out Perry's website, www.perryadams.com. We'd like to thank Bryant Dillon, who created our fantastic drawing and artwork, as well as edits our show. Bryant is the president and co-founder of Fanbase Press. Follow him on Twitter at Comic Book Slayer. Finally, we'd like to thank Sean Foster, Fanbase Press's graphic designer, for designing our logo. We'll see you next week. Bye!
La 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 la.
And if you're watching now, we'll be right back in about 5 minutes with the next episode. Bye!